Hi, I'm Victoria. Welcome back to my channel. It has been a really long time since my last video, like a little under 3 months, I think. Sorry about that. But since it is early December now, that means I did not do a wrap up for any of the fall months. So this is sort of like a fall wrap up, but I'm not going to go through like every book I read. There was a few books that were just completely forgettable, honestly. And so like I didn't really feel the need to try to talk about those and see if I could remember anything about them. But of the books that like I can remember stuff about, I have 12 that I want to talk to you about today. And honestly, overall, I haven't been having the best reading time. Kind of makes me sad. There was a couple good ones in there. You'll see. But yeah, hopefully things start getting better. But we'll just hop right into it. So starting out, the first book that I read in, September, was actually a good one. That was Dark Air by C.S. Pacat. I did this as a buddy read with Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and we were both really excited for this book because I got her to read the first book of this series for Battle of the Booktubers, and she loved it, and we already knew I loved it, and so we decided to go ahead and read the second book together, and we loved it. I loved it. I loved it so much. Without going into what it's about, since it is a sequel in a series, all of the stuff that I loved from the first book was still there. You had like political machinations, the plot twist, the painful emotions, and cool magic, and yeah. So I just, everything so good. You can go watch me gush about the first book. But for real, honestly, I don't have anything negative to say about that book, at least that I can remember. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just like love, 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 love. The setup for the third book, it got me. I need that third book right now. Like the ending of book 2, that's all I'm gonna say. But the next book that I read, or technically 2 books, is this duology, and it's the Fate and Flame duology by Liz Hambleton. So, you know the fated mate trope, right? Well, this world has fated mates, and you find them by, if you touch them, then you feel it, like then you just know, and it kind of like activates, I guess you could say. And so this society has become like really centered around this, because finding your soulmate, it gives you like immortality, sort of. We don't know for sure if it's like immortal, but like the people who have found their mates, they haven't like died yet, and it's been like a long time. So and they stay healthy and like all this stuff. So like, you know, people want their fated mates. And also there's obviously like the bond and everything between them. Well, this society has developed to where people are searching for them so much that's like you go somewhere, like you're walking down the street and people are like just brushing up against your arms, trying to see if maybe you're their fated mate. And it's just such a normal part of society now. Well, people have kind of gotten divided. The majority of them are what they call seekers, and that is people who are searching for their fated mates. That is like their goal when it comes to like relationships. But then you have the settlers, and that's people who have decided that they don't want to find their fated mate. They are in love with like just another person, you know, and so they settle down, and like that term is kind of given to them by the seekers, I guess. It's like, because, you know, you settled for less than true soulmate love and stuff, right? Well, the story follows kind of 3 different characters. We have Emery, who went through some really traumatic stuff when she was younger, and as an adult she is a settler, and she is happily like in love with her husband, Sebastian, who is another point of view we get. And then the other point of view that we get is Theo. Theo is kind of this outlier. He doesn't view himself as a settler or a seeker because he does not want to be in a relationship. He has a health condition that makes it so he pretty much knows he's not going to live a very long life. So his plan is just work really hard, make a ton of money really fast, and then retire doing whatever he wants for the last couple years that he expects to have in his life. Well, turns out him and Emery are soulmates. And obviously Emery is not wanting a soulmate because she's a settler, and he's like conflicted because having a soulmate could be really good because then, you know, he might not die and stuff, because it would like heal his health condition. And he had never really given himself like the time to think about having a life, really. But there's also like the guilt of like kind of forcing his soulmate into this position that she doesn't want to be in, and she's already in love with someone else, and the other person, like, they're good, right? So it's just this story of them working through this and everything. And I thought it was handled really interestingly. Like, the premise was really cool to me after so many fantasy romance stories involving fated mates and stuff. It was really refreshing to see this new spin on it. And I also thought it was well written. The characters are very complex, but the one downside is something about it. I don't really know. I think maybe it's because action wise or like things happening wise, there's not like a ton. It's very introspective and things going on between the characters rather than things happening to them. And so, even though, you know, there is some stuff that's happening to them and everything, and so like, I think that something about that just made it feel a little slow or drawn out. I'm not sure. But I mean, I liked it enough that when I finished the first book, I immediately went and continued onto the second and finished the duology, which is actually pretty rare for me when it comes to romance series. But just that lack of things going on, I think is what made it to where it's not one that I feel like the need to purchase, because the other aspects of it were really solid for me. So I think it could have gotten there. But yeah, I highly recommend it if that sounds up your alley, if you want to see this new take on the fated mate trope. I do think it was well done, but yeah, I don't think it's one I'm gonna buy. Next is a book that I read for a book club that I joined, and that is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, but I lost my voice. That is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. This was my third book by him that I picked up, and I don't know if I will ever pick up a Grady Hendrix book again, unless someone's like making me read it. Because so far, everything that I've tried, so I've tried, what's it called? The Vampire Book Club one. I tried that one. And I tried the Scary IKEA one, Horror Store. And then I tried this one. And none of them worked for me. I actually think I DNF'd both of those other two books. And then this one I pushed through just because it was for the book club. But, yeah, I wasn't having like an amazing time with it. So basically, it's about this home where teenage girls are sent if they get pregnant, so that way they can go there and kind of have their pregnancy there outside of the public eye. And then they have their baby, put it up for adoption, and then go home to pretend like it never happened. This is, you know, something from history. There might still be them now. I don't know. But yeah, so we're following this girl, and I don't remember her name, but she is getting sent there by her parents. And so it's about like her experience there and the other girls and stuff there. And surprisingly, I felt like Grady Hendrix did a pretty good job at depicting what I would imagine for teenage girls going through this kind of situation, like their personalities and stuff and their reactions to things. That worked for me. It was just another case of things being really boring. The majority of it is just about them being miserable because they're pregnant, and then also miserable because they're treated terrible for being pregnant. And then we have like some witchcraft stuff, but it doesn't go as far as I was like hoping for it to go. And then also like the scary aspect of the story was not in the kind of way that I was expecting when I read what this book was about. And I wish that it was, because I was like semi excited for one thing, and then the thing that happened just did not give me anything. I don't know. Yeah, so Grady Hendrix, not for me. But next I read His Face is the Sun by Michelle Habez Kapora, I think. This is an Egyptian mythology inspired fantasy world, and I was excited to read this because aside from City of Brass, I don't think I've read any other fantasy worlds that either are in Egypt or Egypt mythology based. And I love the David trilogy. So I was really intrigued by this and I actually ended up really enjoying it. I don't know if this is a niche that really works for me or if I'm just having good luck with these two specifically. But yeah, I was really happy with it. So this story's following four people. We have the princess, the daughter of the pharaoh, and then there's this priestess girl and rebel and this like tomb raider guy. I thought that was really cool. It was kind of like a unique spin on like the thief archetype, you know, which honestly, thief characters, while, you know, there's exceptions and there are ones that I can enjoy, a lot of times I find them kind of boring. So it was nice, like, I guess I'm just kind of tired of seeing very common things, especially like I can't even talk, especially like if they don't really try to make it unique. So getting to see like a Tomb Raider, yeah, it's thieving, but you know, it has like a different spin on it. So I liked it. And then the things that he deals with and stuff, it was just really cool. But while the plot lines of this book and City of Brass are completely different, I think it worked for me in a similar way because they had similar strengths. Like there was a lot of the mythology, like mystical core that just, where it's just you really get to delve into the world and everything. And then they also had like a lot of the political intrigue and stuff that, you know, I am in love with. So having a story like this where it's like mythology battling an ancient evil that awakens and then royalty like and rebellions fighting over this crown and stuff, that's like the perfect blend for me, you know. I'll be honest, you know, it's been a few months, so I know that that was not the most detailed description, but you know, I'm leaving the mystery for you guys. So if those things sound interesting to you, just pick it up, give it a shot, and hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. But the next book that I read is Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins. This is an older book. I wonder, when did this come out? I'm gonna take a guess and be like 2010, just like vibes. It's very Twilight era coded in my mind. Wow. It came out March 2nd, 2010. I called that. Okay, so this is a very like old school 2000s, like classic vibe, paranormal, like urban fantasy. I don't know if urban's the right word, but it's our world. It's about this girl named Sophie, and a couple years ago she found out that she's a witch. She's been kind of getting into some trouble with her magic, doing it when she really shouldn't, risking exposure. Her and her mom have been having to move around a lot and stuff. They're estranged from her father, and she doesn't really know anything about him. But eventually she gets in enough trouble in her most recent escapades that her father kind of is like, hey, so you need to come to this school now. It's not really optional. We're going to get your magic under control, get you under control. And it turns out he's like super influential and everything. So she has to move to this boarding school full of a bunch of other like supernatural creatures and stuff that she just had no idea existed at all. And then, you know, people start dying. So it's just kind of goes from there. It's very like teenage drama, and I don't know how, like if you don't know early 2000s paranormal fantasy romance, like YA, like that type of vibe, like specifically from that time period. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know how to explain it, I guess. Like in my mind, that's what I call campy. I didn't know this until like semi recently that campy is like specific to horror, I think. But yeah, in my mind, own definition, it's like cringy 2000s. That's campy to me. But yeah, that's the vibe, and sometimes it just is cringy, and then other times it's like really nostalgic to me, and it's a lot of fun. This one fell on the fun side. I had a good time with it. I had picked up the first book at like a used bookstore, and I wasn't really expecting anything from it, but since I did end up enjoying it, I'm gonna hold off on buying the other ones in the series, but my Libby does have the audiobooks, so I'm going to continue and see if I want to end up owning the rest of the series. I'm not expecting it to be like a favorite, but I think it could be a really fun time. Next, I read Evocation by S.T. Gibson. I just have to say, I'm gonna put a picture of the cover like on here, but the covers of the series, because I saw the cover of the second book too, they're so gorgeous. I love them so much, and I'm a little bit disappointed to say that I won't be owning them because I did not love this first book. So Evocation has this urban fantasy magical secret society type of setting, and we have our main characters. There's 3 of them. One comes from a very influential family in the magical society, and he has dealt with like some really traumatic family stuff throughout his life, and now he's kind of had a bad history of being an alcoholic and everything. And then we have his ex-boyfriend who was like a normal dude that was able to rise in the ranks of the magical society and is now doing like very well for himself and stuff. And then we have his wife, and she's like, the magical society is like very male, so you know, she's like doing her own thing, like tarot card readings and stuff like that, but they're in love and sweet and like mature and work things like through and like try to be good to each other and stuff. However, the guy of that marriage is also the ex-boyfriend of alcoholic dude, and they have a lot of hurt feelings and buried emotions and stuff from their past. They had a very tumultuous relationship and a really bad breakup, and then married dude still cares about alcoholic dude, but like is kind of tired of all of his shit, you know? And so they're just like really all enmeshed into each other's business, and it's all messy and angry and everything. And so this book is taking all that relationship drama and putting it into like a magical setting. It actually was really close to being a good setup for me because, you know, I loved Magnolia Parks. I like the messy relationship stuff in books, and I love fantasy, so it could have been really good, except the relationship stuff, like, in some ways was interesting. Like, that setup I just told you is interesting, but like in reality, the way that they went about it, it was pretty boring. And honestly, I think it's mainly because of him, like the married dude, having a wife and the wife character and stuff. I think that this book would have been stronger as a whole if they had the fantasy plotline that it has, which is about them being kind of like rivals for this kind of promotion type position in the secret society, and that was interesting. But then just have them be like exes with conflict and still feelings for each other while going after the same goal and stuff. I think that would have been good, and you still could have had like the development, like the character development and everything. It felt like the wife character was kind of thrown in there probably to like force it into like a unique throuple situation, but it didn't work. Her chemistry with either guy was not chemistrying. And also, she was the most mature out of all of them, which is good. Like, you know, mature characters, that's good and stuff. But it was kind of weird having it in a toxic relationship, work through thing going on, with her being such a prominent part of the relationship. It kind of felt like her character was the side character in a romance story like this. Like if you were watching like a romance movie and, you know, you were watching all the drama and stuff, and one of the characters would be venting to their best friend coworker, and then the coworker is just like super blunt and doesn't like, is like not dealing with that shit, you know, and just kind of tells you what it is, what you need to do, work on yourself, you know. It felt, I mean, she's not rude, but like, it felt like that was the character trope that she was, and then she just got forced into being in the relationship. Yeah, so it didn't work for me, which makes me really sad because there's potential for it to really work for me, and then also I'm sad because the covers are so pretty. But anyways, the next book that I read is Children of Ruin by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is book 2 of, actually I don't know the series name, but the first book was Children of Time. I buddy read the first book with Leandra from Leandra the TBR Zero and Danny from Danny Dabbles, and then we buddy read this second book as well, and we're going to be buddy reading the third book because we are still loving it. I'm still loving it. It's such a good series. It's so well done. Adrian Tchaikovsky is such a talented writer. I don't want to go super into detail about this book since it is a sequel and there is, you know, connected stuff. The only thing, I guess, actually, let me read the back of the book first to make sure I'm not giving anything that wouldn't be easy to find out anyways. Oh, it doesn't say. I want to tell you stuff so bad, but I don't want to spoil things. But yeah, so it still has like some really cool alien world culture building stuff, super in-depth, fascinating, amazing language learning stuff. Love it. It was a little bit more confusing than the first book. There's an aspect to it, without going into detail, that makes it even harder to relate than I did in the first book. This is so hard to explain without trying to give things away, but still amazing. That's what I want to say. It's just different. I would say if Children of Time is a 5-star sci-fi read for me, this one would probably be a 4.75, 4.5. Like, it's still amazing, just a little bit harder to connect with, and that's like the only thing that makes it not as high for me. Interestingly though, I liked the humans in this story more than I did in the first one. Liked as in like enjoyed them, but also liked as in thought that they had a stronger presence and stuff in this book. And then also I feel like Adrian Tchaikovsky had like a little bit of humor coming through in this one. I can't remember if I really sensed humor in the first book, but if I did, it was definitely not to the level that I did in this one because it stuck out to me in this book. It wasn't like a ton. It's not a comedy, but when I saw it, like, I enjoyed it. So that's all I feel like I can say. Oh my god. But yeah, read this series if you're like interested in sci-fi at all. I know there's some big books, and the thing about these books is when we buddy read them, we take our times with them because it's like the way he writes, you just have to like sit there and actually use your brain and like think and absorb all the stuff, and it's kind of heavy and you're like, my brain's tired now. Like, so it's not like something that I could just blow through without giving myself a headache or just not absorbing it. But as long as I'm in the right mood for it, I'm totally okay with that. So still loving it, and I've bought book 3. I'm like ready to go for continuing the series. But next I read I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. I had heard about this book on a variety of different Booktubers' favorite books of the year, and I had already been a little bit nervous about this book just hearing about it. I kind of had a hunch that it wouldn't be for me, but it is very short, and I had heard such amazing things, so I decided to give it a shot, and I get why people like it. It's not what I need from a story. It's a little too on the speculative end, I guess. Yeah. So we follow this girl, and her and these other women, they wake up in this prison cell, and they're just kind of like there. and they can't escape. There's like these prison guards and stuff, and they don't know what happened. They don't remember, like they have like these vague memories of the outside world, but they don't really remember anything about what led to them being in the prison. And so they don't know what's going on. They don't have a way to escape. They can't like touch each other without like risk getting whipped and stuff. So like it's just a very interesting setup for the story. But then something happens, an alarm goes off. The men like were about to give them food, but then like when the alarm goes off, they like run away. And so the women are like, oh wow, we can like go out the door, we can leave, we can escape. And so then they're like out in the world, and then it's just them out there. Like, I mean, that like I don't know. Yeah, it was not for me. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I don't know. It was just okay. But Lilith of Endings by Dreamer's Riot was my next book, and this is the first book of the Otherworldly Anarchist series. It's a lit RPG. We're following this girl. What was her name? Annie. And in our world, she was like very anarchist, activist, like doing, what are those called? Molotov cocktails? What are those called? Is that what it is? It's like the bottle and the thing and the flame, and yeah. She was making those and just doing all kinds of stuff in her life, and she ends up dying, and then she wakes up in the body of this child in a fantasy world. Well, in this new world, as she's learning about kind of like the societal structure and stuff here, she's like, well, I was an anarchist in my old world. I'm still me. I'm an anarchist here. We're gonna bring this shit down. So her plan is to learn magic, get really strong, bring down the government. I mean, I only read the first book, but like that's the kind of vibe of the story that you're getting. Is that's her game plan, is like, and she's not, going around telling people this, but like she's like in 7-year-old body, and eventually she gets older and stuff, but she's like in 7-year-old body, and she's like, yeah, I need to get a job at this bookstore so I can secretly learn magic from the books, and then I'll get strong enough to be like around the nobles so I can like bring down the nobility and stuff. And she's kind of a mess. It was a bit of a fun time, but I felt like it was a little too all over the place. I'm not continuing with it, but I could see it being enjoyable for people. I had a decent time with it. The premise of it, like just her being this anarchist, going in a kid's body and being like, okay, yeah, I'm that here too, let's bring down the government and stuff, like as a little 7-year-old kid, that is funny to me. But it was something. Give it a shot. The next book that I read was The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King, and this was actually a pick for a book club that I created with my coworkers, and I didn't pick this book, but it got picked by someone else, and I had attempted Fairy Tale by him in the past and ended up DNFing it. And I remember when that book came out, hearing multiple times that was Stephen King's first fantasy book. And obviously that was wrong, because this book, The Eyes of the Dragon, came out, when did it come out? I want to say like the 70s or something? 1984. This book came out in 1984, and it is definitely fantasy, so I guess people just hadn't like, the people saying that must have just like not read his old stuff or something. I don't know, but I liked this one a lot better than Fairy Tale. I finished it. I mean, it's not like a new favorite, but I had a good time with it, and it had like very classic fairy tale vibes. I love that stuff. It had very strong classic like archetypes of characters, so if that bothers you, this won't be the story for you. But if you can get into like that fairy tale mindset of like the symbolism of the characters and like all of that stuff, and just enjoy that part of it, then I recommend this one. I liked it. So we're following this prince. I am drawing a blank on his name. Actually, we're following a storyteller narrator who's kind of covering multiple stuff going on. But we have this king. He has two princes, two sons. One obviously is the older heir, and he is like classic honorable prince dude, doing everything he's supposed to do right, cares about his people, super kind, he's amazing. And then we have his little brother, who is kind of forgotten about by the king. He's a very neglected little kid. He feels very jealous of his brother, doesn't feel seen or loved and all this stuff, tries to be good, struggles with it, isn't good with learning. He's good at archery, but the older he gets, the little bit meaner he gets, and the king has this bad advisor dude who just thrives on chaos in the world and does what he can to just destroy everything. And yeah, I don't want to say more, but if you like that kind of thing, you like the old school fairy tale stuff, I recommend it. Next, for the non-coworker book club that I told you about that I joined, the next book that we read, since we're covering multiple months here, was This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El Motar. I had attempted this book in the past and I DNF'd it. This time around, I pushed through because it's very, very short. I think it was like a 4-hour audiobook or something like that. It's insanely short. So I pushed through, and I will say the later part of the story did improve how I felt about it. So my feelings went up the further I went in, but it still was not like mind-blowing. Like it was okay. Maybe slightly better than okay. There was like parts of it that I did enjoy, but yeah, it was not great. You're following these two girls from different societies. One I think is a robot and one I think is a plant, and yet they're both human. It is a weird setup. But they both time travel to stop this war and like influence history and stuff. And so they're always kind of like crossing each other's paths, and eventually they start writing these like notes to each other and develop this witty correspondence and start getting feelings and stuff. And a large chunk of this book is their letters to each other, and that part was not doing it for me. I don't know, like I read Life as We Knew It. It was like that middle grade dystopian story about like the moon getting closer and like messing up the world, and the little girl, I mean the girl, like the whole story is like her journal entries, and that wasn't my favorite setup, but I did really enjoy the story and that setup worked okay for me. This was not working for me. The letters between the people, I couldn't get to know anybody really, and I feel like that must not be the point. Like you're not really supposed to be focusing on getting to know the characters. You're supposed to be focusing on like their interactions, but I'm someone that I need to care about the characters to care about their interactions. And yeah, I didn't really get to where I cared about much. There was some ending stuff that helped, but yeah, I don't think I recommend this book. That's pretty much it. There is some stuff, like it's not 100% letters, but I'd say from what I can remember, it's probably like at least 75% of the book. I could be wrong, but that's the feeling that I had. But anyways, last but not least, we have Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is a book that I had been planning to pick up for like the longest time because it's one of those books that you just always see in the sci-fi section of bookstores. So like my mind had just said, like, this must be a classic sci-fi book. And I think it might be. I might be right about that. They're short books, because it's a series, and I'm pretty sure like the ones after the first one are short too. So it didn't take me very long to get through this, but I will not be continuing this series. It was not entertaining to me. I don't know what was going on with me reading all of these boring books this season. Oh, my notebook's falling. Yeah, what was this about? This was about this place called Area X. We don't really know too much about it. There's a bunch of like vegetation and like weird stuff and everything. And then there's this company who sends like groups of people out there every once in a while to like study it. You have like a linguist and a biologist and a psychologist and like all these ists out there. And when the people go out to avoid, I guess, making this trip about themselves when they need to be focusing on their job, they don't use their names. They just use their job. And it's really weird out there. There's some suspicious stuff going on. There was some stuff that was intriguing, that it could have been interesting to me, like an interesting story. But they didn't do stuff with it that, like, for me to get to that point. They did just enough for me to be like, oh, that's weird, and then it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, this book is go in a weird place. Oh, it's weird, and you're acting weird. Everything's weird. And that's it. that was my review of Annihilation. And there might be some stuff. I think there's a little bit that I'm forgetting, but that's the gist of it, honestly. I don't recommend. But yeah, so that's all the books pretty much that I read over the last season. Recommend me some books. If you're not new, you've watched me enough time now, you probably know something that I would really like, because I'm struggling over here. You heard, I think there was like maybe 3 books out of 12 that I just talked about that I didn't say was boring. So help a girl out. Give me some recommendations. I'm writing a book. I'm like 33 pages in right now, 34. I'm having a blast with it. A part of my hiatus, I went back into one of my painting phases. I got all the hobbies, okay? Anything I can do inside, I do. I bought a piano, hurt my husband's back, making him pick it up for me. What else have I been doing? I signed up for a writing class, but that hasn't started yet. Well, I guess that's about it. I will try to talk to you guys soon, a lot sooner than my last video was. Sorry, I'm unwell, but love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.